Welcome. This is my attempt at Snake. It is an attempt. It is not a successful attempt. So the main problem that we run into is Snake forces the player to continuously move forwards, whereas if you implement that in AR and you want the Snake head to be the cell phone, you'll end up running into the problem where you don't have to move your cell phone if you don't want to. There's probably other ways of implementing this, but I was having some trouble. So this didn't work out super well. There was also some coding issues that I ran into. Go over that. But yeah, so basically what you do is you head towards the red point. It extends out your tail as you do that. I didn't have enough time to do the losing objective, so we'll get a longer snake tail as you gather red apples, but you will not lose if you run into your own tail, which is the way you lose snakes. So that is where it didn't quite end up successful. It also it ran into some trouble with that. So the other thing with this Snake project is that we need to record quite a few different things. So there's going to be an apple, our cell phone position, and then the snake tail. And so we need to measure the collision between our cell phone and the snake tail, and then also the red ball. And we'll need to do an updating function. So every time that collision happens, we'll have a new ball, and then we will need to try and figure out some way of updating the snake tail. And that's going to be a little bit challenging. The snake tail update is probably the more complicated part of this project. Okay, so we'll start off by initializing a few things. So we'll initialize all the meshes that we're going to be using. So we'll have a snake mesh, an apple mesh, and a line mesh. Then we have to add some values. So we'll have a point, a snake size. Okay, so we have some extra initializations as well, some things with positions and speeds. So in particular, the snake position is going to be the position at every point. And then we'll also record the snake's velocity for some curved lines. So we're going to be using curved lines for our snake. And that means that we'll need to use some Bezier functions. And we're going to be using the cubic. So we'll have a function that returns a function. And basically what this does is it returns a parameterized function so that you can use that function more. And then what we're going to do is we're going to write the function that'll move the snake along. And so this will have a line length and it will have the iteration length. So each line will have a set number of 30 points along that to smooth it out. So that's why it's 30 times as large as the max length. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get the points from our list, and we will get the velocities from our list, and we will use the velocities and the points to make some Bezier curves that we can use to iterate over our mesh. So this is how you fill out the mesh for a Bezier curve. I did make some sort of mistake in the ordering of the points. They are not the way that they should be, so that's something that I'll have to fix in the future. And then you basically just update the snake mesh so that it all works out. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the thing that initializes the mesh for the snake. And so mesh lines are a little bit different from other meshes. There's just a few extra things that we have to parameterize, but that's pretty straightforward. We're going to have to make an add point function. And so this is just going to define where our point is going to be created. And so these random numbers is basically going to be a cube of 1 meter, but you could actually extend that out to make the snake function bigger if you want to make some sort of larger game. Then we'll add the point and we'll include that in the inners. And so the inners is going to be what we use for collision detection. Then we need to do a few extra functions. So we'll have our restart function and our gain point function. Every time we get a point, we will extend the line out. So we'll push some things to our lists, and then we will update the line, and then our restart will just start the snake from scratch. And once we have that done, we'll just add in our collision detector. So this is the collision detector that we've been using a few different times. It doesn't work super well with this mesh lines, so I was having some trouble getting this to work. So this isn't fully implemented. I kind of ran out of time. But basically when it hits the point, we can make that collision work well. So we can add a point, we'll add the point, we'll extend the line. We're going to create a moving forward line. And so this is basically what will update our list, because as we move forwards, the last point of the snake is going to be removed and there's going to be a new start of the snake. And so we need to write that, and then we will add the change line function at the end of that. And then we have to do a few more initializations. These were kind of some things that I was practicing around with, so they're not all used. We're just going to define a quick magnitude. So this is just the distance between 2 points. And what we'll do is we will write our game loop, and our game loop is just basically going to be detect the collisions, update the instantaneous position, update the instantaneous velocity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to measure out a magnitude. So this is going to be the distance between the last point in the snake and our instantaneous position. And if that is larger than, in this case, 15 centimeters, we are going to update our line. Then what we're going to do is we're going to change the instantaneous position to the last position. Didn't need to do that. So then we are going to update the cell phone mesh. And ideally, we would also update the rotation as well. This is a little bit of a messy project. And we just are going to do our initialization functions. This is after the post part of this is about after the AR starts, and we'll just add in all of our objects. Then we're going to render. We're going to start the game loop with the render, and then we are just going to add the button that starts this all with the AR button. And after that, we just have to push in our boilerplate AR code that we've used quite a few times now. We just keep using, and then that is pretty much it. So the HTML for Snake is a little bit different in that we need to also upload a mesh script. So we will need an extra script for our mesh line, and then we will have our div score. And one other thing that we might want is you can add a texture to the mesh line. So if you wanted to texture the snake, what you would do is you'd have our GLF key loader, and you would just load that in with an image.